ladies, and welcome to this edition of Menopause Made Easy with Tanya. Today, I'm going to ask you to contemplate. Contemplate, do you have faith in yourself? Do you have faith in yourself? What does faith mean? Faith means that it empowers us with the humility of our human condition. It empowers us to deal with reality and to do our part of the deal and opens us up to hope. So I've really been contemplating this because I realized how little faith and in fact, I didn't even really think about this a lot until recently, but how little faith I have in myself when I say I'm going to do something. So I'll just talk about my experience, but I'll just throw out a couple of questions so that you can think about your experience. But perhaps there's times in your life when you say, I'm never going to drink again, or maybe not so drastic, I'm going to cut back on my drinking, whatever that looks like, or I'm never going to eat X again, or I'm going to go and work out. And we make these promises to ourselves and we just kind of say them, but we don't really sit back and contemplate. So I want you to contemplate today. So I know that upon reflection, I can absolutely 100% guarantee that I lack faith in my follow through when I say I'm never going to drink alcohol again, or I'm never going to eat sugar again. And this makes me feel poopy pants because I realize that what I have done to myself in the past is made these decisions that are too big. It requires, I don't know if I want to say too much faith. And basically, I would sabotage myself. And I did this for years. And I think this is what a lot of diet culture is, where we make ourselves these big promises and we really don't tap into the faith of ourselves, this empowerment, this humility, this the shifts that need to happen. And so one of the concepts I've talked about a lot is the addition principle, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more, and also simple shifts. So what I really realized upon my contemplation is that when I break something down to the smallest part, the simplest part, that I have more faith in myself and I'm able to take that action. So I'm going to just talk about something that's not related to food or drinking, but I have a pretty big gardening project that I'm dealing with. And every time I think about it, I get overwhelmed. I'm like, oh gosh, it's so big. Where do I start? And I'm feeling that I have little faith in myself to actually go and deal with this garden project all at once. And that's kind of how we look at dieting, or I'm going to not drink anymore, I'm not going to eat anymore. And we realize that there's a process. And so when I look at my gardening project, one tiny shift that I need to do, one simple step, is I need to actually get the rocks and put them in a pile. So I need to move the rocks to clear the border, and I need to put them in a pile. So I started to break down all the little things I could do. Maybe it's a 5-minute task of just even cutting down some flowers. Maybe it's a 30-minute task. And asking myself, do I believe in myself that I can get this done? And I cannot tell you the ease and flow that came over me of just breaking down this big task into a little task. And so one of the things we've talked about in my midlife reboot lately is noticing these situations, I call them stressy messes, that are pulling at us, that we are too overwhelmed to deal with the whole project. How can we break it down into a smaller project? Because we're talking about working and healing our gut, and stress impacts our gut, right? So it's not always just the obvious things, it's stressy messes and how that's feeling in your body. Anyway, we are breaking things down into smaller actionable steps. So I'm going to go back into my past, and I'm going to show you one example of how I went from basically, going to a bakery and buying 6 items and eating them all to myself, or going to the ice cream shop and getting the biggest ice cream and sitting in the car by myself and eating it. Nighttime eating, because as many of you know, I've had a real struggle with eating processed food, let's call it. I don't have a struggle eating broccoli. I don't have a struggle eating carrots. I don't have a struggle eating steaks and avocado. The struggle comes with highly addictive processed foods. So I was always trying to get to the top of the mountain and be like, I'm never eating this again. And I knew deep down that I was probably going to fail. At least if I reflect back how many times I failed, and I just kept trying to do the same thing over and over and over. So one thing you hear me talk a lot about is embracing the journey. Embrace the journey. I gave myself grace, compassion. I became curious. I started to ask myself, who would I be? And this took time. This took time. I wasn't thinking about this at the very beginning. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to do was to cut back on nighttime eating. All right. And so for so many of the clients I work with, and even myself, I was focused on how can I stop nighttime eating? Right. And so I was like, willpower, deprivation, restriction. And I was focused on the sign or symptom, and I wasn't going to the root cause of why was I eating at night. All right. So one of the things that I decided to do was to change my breakfast. And you're thinking, why would you change your breakfast if you're trying to fix your nighttime eating? Well, what I noticed is that my breakfasts, through education and understanding of blood sugar, so I was educating and empowering myself. I was planting the seeds in my body. I was building faith within myself. I was trying to look at this from a different angle, which can be very hard. And this is why it's very powerful to work with a coach and somebody like me, because you're going to get there faster because you're going to do things you didn't think about. Okay. So in society right now, there is a message of what constitutes breakfast. It's pretty normalized, and I was eating it. So when I reflect back on my breakfast, I was having crumpets with honey or jam, English muffins with jam, cereal, French toast, pancakes, muffins, juice. Okay, all of these things we've been told are okay for breakfast, but unbeknownst to me, they were wreaking havoc on not just my blood sugar, but I'm going to guess it's wreaking havoc on your blood sugar as well. And a couple hours later, I was hungry and reaching for more of these simple carbohydrates. And at the end of the day, I was in this total simple sugar, simple carbohydrate spiral. And then because my blood sugars were all wonky, I ended up nighttime eating because I was on this spiral all day long. Okay. Or maybe it wasn't all day long. Maybe I would grip in and have some willpower, have some discipline, but then it would explode and I would be deep into the nighttime eating. All right. So simply by changing my breakfast, and I will do some episodes on this because this could be a change that could change your life like it changed my life. I simply began having a smoothie. I learned, and I actually taught workshops for a long time on how to make a balanced smoothie, and people would come, they would pay me, I would make them smoothies, they would taste it, it would take out the fear of making the smoothie because they didn't want to, do something if it didn't taste good. And I perfected making smoothies. And I didn't start 7 days a week. I didn't start with an all or nothing attitude. I just began to introduce smoothies a couple of days during the week. And I began to notice that I wasn't craving a couple hours later. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And again, I did not understand hormones. I did not understand my gut. I did not understand blood sugar levels. I did not understand insulin. I didn't understand, and it wasn't even talked about when I did this stuff. There was no landscape, no words for what I was doing when I was doing this about 10, 15 years ago. Okay, so we've come a long way. So just remember, I was completely in the dark, no connection to blood sugar levels at all. So hindsight is 2020. So I know that looking back, I knew that this breakfast was causing me to be on a blood sugar roller coaster, which I talk about in my book, Cookie Dough in the Dark, which I've talked about in many episodes. And what we really work on as one part of our midlife reboot is stabilizing your blood sugar levels, because they have such an impact not only on your day-to-day food choices, but your mood, and chronic disease like diabetes, prediabetes, heart disease, Alzheimer's, mental cognition issues, and more. All right, so this is a root cause issue that really needs to be looked at, and I am here to help you with that. So when your blood sugar levels are stable, your cravings subside. So again, I was focused on fixing nighttime eating, but I wasn't looking at the root cause of my unstable blood sugar levels, my inability to manage my cravings. And you cannot outrun willpower or your physiology or your blood sugar levels. Like, you must know how food impacts your blood sugar levels. Okay, because when you do and you understand that keeping that roller coaster ride into like a little kiddie roller coaster will really help with willpower. Okay, it'll really help with your physiology. So simply by balancing my blood sugars in the morning, by having a well-balanced smoothie, which I will get into in another episode, I was able to cut down on the food that I had. And my faith in myself increased, because I'm like, I can do it. I can do it. I have faith in myself that I can do this one simple little shift consistently. I wasn't trying to fix everything about me, but the really fascinating part is, by adding this smoothie into my day and feeling better and having balanced blood sugars, my cravings dissipated, my mood stabilized, my gut started to heal, I started to crave different things, nighttime eating diminished. And I am in a totally different place just by making that one simple shift. Okay, and so what is that one simple shift that you have faith in yourself that you can make? Okay, what simple little thing? So break down something you're trying to, I don't want to use the word control, but maybe I was trying to control my nighttime eating, but something that is no longer serving you, because nighttime eating really did not serve me, and it doesn't serve my clients. Okay, it is sabotaging their health and weight plans. So what's one simple shift? And I know from doing this for many, many years and working with many, many women, that changing your breakfast, and you can eat breakfast at any time you want, okay? Changing that breakfast can really have a significant impact. Now, you don't have to drink a smoothie. You can go for a more protein-dense meal. And if I can remember, I will put my protein pack freebie so you can look up some recipes and try some of those. And then I could do a whole other episode on obstacles. So I will save that for another episode, because I'm trying to keep this focused on faith. All right, so what simple shift do you have faith in yourself that you can do? Health is your greatest asset. It is your greatest asset. And so many of us are throwing it away because we've normalized way too many things. We have a huge lack of education when it comes to our bodies. We're not empowered to make healthier choices. Many of us are so overwhelmed and confused, which they really do that on purpose to make you feel overwhelmed and confused, because then you're not using your thinking brain. So I've done episodes on the brain. Again, when you start to thread all of the things that I have been talking about together, you really start to understand more of what I'm talking about and how you work with your human behavior. And so your health, ask anybody who doesn't have their health, they will tell you their health is their biggest asset, right? Do you know how amazing you would feel energetically, physically, mentally, spiritually? And I know it's really hard. I was just talking with a client of mine. It's really hard. It's very challenging for many of us to be out of the moment. To just be like, do the easy thing that may not be serving you. Okay. It is challenging, but I know it's possible because my clients have done it. I do it. Not 100% perfect. I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about progress and learning to have faith in yourself. So I know many of you are looking to improve your health and well-being. So I just want you to reflect. I wanted to come in today and ask you to contemplate where you have been lying to yourself, where you have had little faith in yourself, where you have been banging your head doing the same thing over and over again, but you're not moving forward, right? How can you begin outside of willpower, deprivation, and restriction and get to the deeper root cause of what you need to address, and then have faith in the journey, which is what I had to do on a bigger level, have faith in the journey as opposed to the quick fix that doesn't work, right? And get into the root cause. And for you, is that insulin? Is it blood sugars? I mean, they're, all related. You're fasting insulin, fasting glucose. What is your HbA1c number? Like, do you know those? Can you start to make choices knowing this information in your blood sugar levels? And again, I've done lots of episodes on blood sugar levels in my midlife reboot. We really work to balance our blood sugar levels and know our data, know our numbers, and set ourselves up for success in the future. So I'm going to leave you with that today. And I hope my examples have helped you. And I just want you to, like I said, contemplate what faith you have in completing the task that you have at hand. So if it's, I like to say fat loss, but I'll just use weight here for a moment. If you want to lose 20 pounds or 3 inches of fat around your waist, that can seem really daunting. How can you break that down to a little bit of an inch and a few pounds? What behaviors can you start to change that will lead you there? Okay, so breakfast was a huge one for me. That really shifted things. Smoothies were a massive game changer for me, drinking a balanced smoothie. So I will share more of that as we move forward with our episodes. So I thank you for listening. And one thing you could pick up besides my protein packed guide, which I'll put in there, is the 5 hacks to cut cravings. And just pick up one guide, because you'll get a lot of emails and that will be too much. So just decide on one guide. It's a freebie that you can pick up that will help you to begin to unwind. And maybe if you're even ready, you can jump in and join my midlife reboot coaching calls, which will really help to tie all of this together, because from my heart to yours, I care about you. I care about your health. I care about your vitality. I care about your future health. I care about my future health. And I know I have the skills and tools to help you. So that is it, ladies. Please share this with anybody who may find this helpful, because when we all rise up together, we become more powerful. And I'm going to leave you with this analogy, which is kind of funny because it's cookie dough, but I know I have been talking a lot about oneness and that we're all in this together and that we all affect each other. And I talk a lot about the ocean, that we're a drop of water in the ocean, but I was listening to something the other day and it really hit home that if you make cookies, you start with cookie dough. And in the cookie dough, you put in salt and sugar and flour and egg and vanilla, and you mix everything together. Okay, you mix everything together so it's all together, and that's what makes the cookie dough. And you can't distinguish, once that cookie dough is all put together, the separate parts. So I hope that makes sense, because we are all together. We are all cookie dough. And when you help yourself, you help everybody else. When you help yourself, you help everybody else. And then when you begin to share and help somebody else, you're helping yourself as well, and you're helping them, and you're helping all of us. So I really would love it. And I know many of you have not liked my podcast, have not made a comment, have not shared my podcast, because I can see all the information. I know how many people listen to my podcast. And if you could take 1 second in your heart just to go and hit the like button on Spotify or Apple, and to leave a review on Apple, that would really help, because it helps other people find this podcast. And quite honestly, there's a lot of great information in here that can really help people to grow and up-level their game. So I appreciate that for those who have. I think there's like 15 people. So if more of you could do it, that would be great. If you can find it in your heart and just give me a moment of your time, I would really appreciate it. I do this podcast from my heart. I don't get any financial gain from this at the moment. Maybe one day I will, but I just, from my heart to yours, that would be a wonderful gift for me. So thank you for listening. Thank you for picking up my freebies, and have fun contemplating today. I'll see you in the next episode.